Hey guys, I'm David Putman. I'm with Planting the Gospel and a facilitator with Multipliers Pathway. Uh, I want to talk with you today about something I'm really excited about. It's the strategic planning part of our process. Now, we've already covered values, the three micro pathways, the mobilization flywheel, and now we're going to bring all that together using a very good tool called the Horizon Storyline. One of the roles that I played over the last few years has been with a consultant, a senior lead navigator with Oxano. And so this is one of the two master tools that we used when I was at Oxano. And again, this one is called the Horizon Storyline. Now, part of the reason it's called the Horizon Storyline is because it deals with different horizons and their relationship to time and space. And so we're going to look at this in just a moment. Another way that we often refer to the Horizon Storyline or this strategic planning model is affectionately the 1-4-1-4. Now, I love this because you'll notice how it's laid out in the frame in front of you, that it starts with one idea, it moves to four, back to one, and then to four. And so at most, you're dealing with 10 big ideas or 10 goals at any time, making it super, super manageable and effective for implementation. And I would go on to say, if we do have a bias in the tool itself, the bias is for implementation or execution. And this is what I like about it. This is not a plan that you put on the shelf, but this is something that, man, you want to keep in your pocket or in your heart and in your mind at all times. And it's so simple that you can literally do that. Now, notice my drawing real quick. I'll give you a super fast overview that will prepare you for our upcoming session. And if you notice, there's my beautiful drawing here. There's the sun that sits back in the horizon. It's the furthest distance from us. And then you come a little bit closer and you see this brown line that represents the mountain peaks in the background. And then you have a water source, a river, creek, stream that's moving through the Midground area and all the way down to the Go Fishing sign, which is right here in our face, which I thought was appropriate since Jesus says, "Come, follow me, and I'll make you fishers of men." And so again, time and space. So space-wise and as far as distance is concerned, the sun, which represents beyond the horizon, is the furthest distance from us. And in our planning model, it represents anywhere from 5 to 20 years, depending on your context. Now, we're talking about the multipliers pathway. So we're putting together a multiplication plan. And, you know, in reality, since we're talking about gospel saturation, there's this sense where the vision, this horizon is way out there, but we want to pull it in a little bit because when it comes to multiplication, many of us are level 3 churches, are at best beginning in our level 4 journey. And so we want to feel the pressure and put the tension in getting the flywheel started and seeing multiplication happen over and over again. So I would suggest for somewhere between 5 and 7 years, you'll be developing your plans for that time. The second, again, horizon we call background horizon because it sits in the background, but it's represented by the mountains because you got to overcome the mountains to get to ultimately your goal beyond the horizon. And so for our planning's sake, in the multipliers pathway, we're talking about 3 to 5 years, but since we're doing a 5 to 7 year plan, we'll just call it 3 years. So then we come on down in time and we have this midground focus, which represents 1 year, and then foreground, again, which represents the here and now. It's where work happens. It's what we would call the 90-day initiative. So when it comes to time and space, you begin back to get back here into beyond the horizon. We have to start in the foreground. So more of that in just a moment. Now, in this next slide, let me just sort of capture the big idea behind each one of these horizons. And I think you'll begin to piece it in your mind how it works. So first of all, this beyond the horizon is all about what I would call vision. And what vision really represents in this case is the most complete picture of where God is taking you and your team, your church. So it's the most complete picture we have at this time where God is taking us. And so we look out there and we say, 5 to 7 years from now, here's where we see God taking us. Now we come on down to the background horizon, and we'll call that strategy. You see, what happens here is it identifies the mountain peaks and that they represent strategies that we must implement to overcome the significant obstacles in our way to multiplication. This is a huge step. This is key. And so think of these as strategies that allow us to overcome specific obstacles that are running in the background all the time and are typically reset about 3 years into it, but only as we overcome those obstacles and we begin to face new obstacles or press towards new horizons. Now come down to our mid area, our midground, and we call this focus. And focus, this is a qualitative and it's a quantitative goal. It's this inspiring picture of what we can do in the next year. A lot of times we refer to it as a 1-year vision, but ultimately it serves the greater vision by serving as a catapult or providing a trajectory that if we accomplish this goal, it will move us like no other action, no other objective, no other goal can towards our ultimate vision that we have in beyond the horizon. Everything serves beyond the horizon. And then if we drop on down to the bottom 4 in our 1-4-1-4, think of the word action. You see, this is all about action. This is where the work gets done. It answers the question, hey, what's important now? And it allows us to accomplish our 1-year focus. And so the 1-year focus is driven by these 4 key actions that have to take place day in and day out to accomplish them. Now let's keep rolling here. And just to give you, just to get you familiar with this master tool that answers the question ultimately where God is taking us. If you look at the top 1-4, the beyond the horizon and the background horizon, this is in the area of strategic. This is the big conceptual, big thinking part of our vision process. Now, to be honest with you, one of the great challenges of vision is often they're conceptual only. In other words, we see it, we talk about what we see, but there is no plan to get there and no means for developing that plan. Well, with the model that we're using, you'll see that, there's strategic, there's the big conceptual piece, but there's also this tactical piece. And that's the bottom 1-4. That's the midground and foreground horizon. So strategic is conceptual. The bottom 1-4 is tactical. is where all the work gets played out. Well, let's keep rolling. One other thing I want you to notice, and then I'll give you a sample. I want you to know about the tool, and that is how we develop it and how we implement it. And I just want to note that that this tool is developed from the top down. In other words, you develop vision and a visionary plan, or in this case, a multiplication plan from the top. I've already said it, but from the top down. And that would be from this most complete picture we have all the way down to what actions are we going to execute today. That's top down. And that's why it works so well in terms of implementation. It's developed from the top down, which brings us to the implementation part of it that I'm speaking about. And it's always implemented from the bottom up. And so top-down development, bottom-up implementation. Now, finally, I put together for you, I'll try not to spend a ton of time with this, but I put together for you a simple, just a simple sample of a 1-4-1-4 that we happen to use in our own community through our disciple-making church planning efforts. So look at the first, the beyond the horizon is we see a movement of disciples multiplying to the fourth generation beyond, planting micro churches filled with disciples who make disciples, forming networks of micro churches. And from this base, we'll help churches everywhere transition from a weekend only to disciple-making culture while serving the global church by helping catalyze movements around the world. And so this is really what we see. But then also just put it in context. There's some obstacles that we have to overcome. There's a mission, and I'm not going to go into all this, but there's just to show you a sample. You can read it on your own. But there's a mission culture mountain we have to climb. There's a team building climb of disciple makers, because that's what changes everything for us, because we're a separate, not nonprofit. There's a funding mountain that we have to climb. And then a lot of what we've talked about, there's a flywheel mountain that we're implementing that we have to climb. Then we come down to what we call our midground. Again, that 1 year focus. These strategies are always running in the background. But what's the one thing that we can do? And this was last year's, by the way. So we have a new one that we're developing now for the next year, the bottom 1-4 we develop over every year. And so Midground, as we continue to multiply microgroups rapidly, launching at least 4 new microchurches, forming a network of microchurches. They'll have its first quarterly celebration before the end of the year. Now, all that is happening now. And so now we have to reset that. And again, once we reset that, we're going to ask the question, okay, if this is what we're doing, whatever that might be, what's important now? Last year, it was mobilizing a leadership team. It was learning how to launch micro churches. We had launched like one, but we didn't know how to multiply them. Now we're learning how to multiply them. It was resource development, but not just financial, one aspect of resource development to fuel our pathway. And then finally, it was just the last 90 days was all about celebration. How do we celebrate what God is doing, which again is a part of building that mission culture. So when we do this effectively, guess what happens? This happens as well as we move up here. And so if I got a 5 to 7 year plan, I'm resetting this bottom 1-4 every year for the next 5 years. And you can see how over time that just accumulates and impacts what we're doing. And again, so this is a simple tool. So what's going to be really important for us is not simply that we have this plan, but it's what goes on the plan. Now, with that in mind, we have in our process, we're getting ready to have our second big gathering, and we can't wait. But here are some things that are going to prepare you not simply to build a 1-4-1-4, but to build it with the right components. And the first is the exercise that you have for homework, 30 behaviors of a reproducing church. So as a team, discern where you like your church to be in church planning in 5 to 7 years and begin using those 30 behaviors. Do that exercise, complete that chart that's going to set you up for success. Now, I know a lot of the work that we've been doing has been about what could be. But listen, what could be is going to feed into what ultimately will be. And our 1414 strategic plan is a will be plan that we're going to be able to implement. So keep in mind, it may not match it, tit for tat, but bring with you as you come back together your list of multiplication values. I think they're going to, even though there could be, they're going to tell you something that you need to know about your plan and what's going to populate that plan. Number 2, I think this is huge. Gospel saturation vision statement. Man, when we begin to develop out the beyond the horizon, think gospel saturation. So much of your work has been done over the last, since the very beginning, and we'll show you how to put all that together in a plan. Number 3, your disciple maker's pathway, input that you want to bring. It's going to speak into your 1414 mobilization flywheel that we just finished up. And again, complete the table, 30 behaviors. And finally, your picture of your church as part of a level 5 family of churches. What could be, maybe even should be, and will be one day. And so that's our tool. It's real simple. Horizon Storyline 1414. Now, just a last reminder is we have tons of resources for this multipliers pathway. The slide deck, videos like this and many others that complement the process, visual guides, workbooks, everything you need. And so you can scan this code. And again, we're looking forward as, hey, we just come to a key part. This is what we're working for, a multiplication plan. Thank you, guys.